All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So, the last lesson, you guys should have learned about the Constitutional Convention, how that went down, and things like that. Now you're going to learn today about the uh, basically the ratification of the Constitution. Okay, it's one thing to get it together, it's another thing to get it passed and to get all the other states to basically agree to it, saying yes, this is the type of government we want, we like, okay, as you're going to see. So here's the objective. We're going to analyze the process of the ratification and the amendments. We're going to critique the efforts of the Federalists to get the Constitution ratified, and we're going to develop a logical, sorry about that, argument on whether George Washington was the most obvious choice to lead our country. Excuse me. So here is your warm up. Now, I know this is a little different than you're used to, but that's okay. Like I said, every so often we'll change it up and things like that. So the question basically asking you is this. As you can see from that little thing on the side, the little quote thing, this lady approached Benjamin Franklin while the Constitutional Convention was going on. And she asked him, well, doctor, what have we got? A republic. A republic is a country where the power is held by the people or the representatives they elect. Okay. So either the people have the power or they pick people to represent them in the government level. Okay. Or a monarchy, which is a king, queen, emperor. And I mean, he didn't even hesitate. He didn't even have to think about it. He turned to her and said, a republic, if you can keep it. Now, your question is this. Why do you think he responded with that? A republic, if you can keep it. What does he mean? If you can keep it. Okay, so again, look at what a republic means, and that's I put the definition on the bottom there. And what do you think he meant by that? If you can keep it. Okay, so really think about it. Um, write your response. Okay, I mean, really think about it. Okay, don't just leave it blank. Don't put I don't know. Again, if it makes no sense whatsoever, like you're talking about the football game going on or Donald Duck and this and that, no, then you're going to lose points. Okay, it has to make sense to what the question is. Okay, so think about it, write your response. Okay, pause the video because we're moving on in three, two, one. So when it came to the Constitution, there was two groups. One group felt that there needed to be a strong central government. Okay, because again, they learned their lesson from the Articles of Confederation. They realized, yeah, we can't have a weak government. We need a strong one. Okay, so those guys were called Federalists. Okay, majority of people who were Federalists were large property owners, merchants, artists from big cities, farmers who traded with places like, you know, China, not China, I'm sorry, China was too far. Um, Spain, France, Portugal, England, places like that. A lot of those guys were Federalist. Now, there was another group who felt like, yes, the government should be strong, but not too strong. Those guys were uh, the anti Federalists. Okay, they felt that the government should not be the supreme power and things like that. That there should be um, some limits on it, and just to be safe, the Anti-Federalists wanted a Bill of Rights. They wanted our rights written down alongside the Constitution. Okay, so if you're looking at your paper, first we're going to be looking at the left side where it says Federalist. And then if you look at there's a space, once you're down to the bottom of the Federalist part, there's a space and it says Anti Federalist. That's the other side. Okay. So the Federalists wrote a collection of essays in support of the Constitution. There was 85 in total. Some were big, some were small. It just depended on what point they were trying to make and how well they were explaining how this was going to help our country. And again, not just these essays were saying, oh, we're going to solve this problem, this little problem, this other one. No, it was saying that the Constitution is basically going to solve all the problems that the Articles of Confederation created. So the whole thing with um, the government not being able to collect taxes, the government not being able to make sure people follow the law, the government, you know, having to ask states for soldiers, for the army, the national army. They had to beg states for soldiers. You know, they're saying, no, no, this constitution takes care of all those problems. Okay. Now, the thing is, the Federalists, they weren't against rights. Okay. I want to make that perfectly clear. Let me move this little video down here. Back. Oops, my bad. I'm sorry. Um, they were not against rights at all. Okay. Their thing was they were like, well, the Constitution already limits the government. So why do we need to add these rights on? Article 1 basically says what Congress can and can't do. You know, it's already there. So if they try to overstep their boundaries, no, they're breaking the law, and you know we can get them for that. Same thing with Article 2, which is about the president, what he can and can't do. So if the president tries to go above his power, you know, hey, they can stop him. Okay. Now, some of the most famous people who were Federalists were Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, John Jay. Now, I know those names probably don't mean much to you. Maybe Alexander Hamilton because of the show, the Broadway show that came out about him several years ago. But back then, those were some heavy hitter names. People knew these guys. You know, these were well known, well respected men. Okay. Now, the Anti Federalists. There were some Northern Anti Federalists who opposed slavery and stuff like that, which did exist under the new Constitution because, hey, states' rights, states had the rights. So, yes, they didn't like um, slavery, but they're also like, you know what? Yeah, the federal government shouldn't be able to just tell a state what to do. They shouldn't be able to say, hey, get rid of this and this and that. A state should be allowed to go the way they want to. Okay. Because imagine this, like in one state, the speed limit they have is like 75. In another state, the speed limit is 65. And all of a sudden, here comes the federal government saying, no, the speed limit for everyone's 45. You know, if the federal government is too powerful, they can enforce that. So now those states, you know, no, you can, your speed limit is not 75, it's now 45 because the federal government said so. Okay. Um, their biggest, you know, thing towards the Constitution was again, there was no Bill of Rights. There was no rights. Nothing that said these are the rights of the people. There's nothing like that at all. That's what they didn't like. So some of the famous people who were anti-federalists were Patrick Henry, Samuel Adams, John Hancock, George Mason, and again, these names probably mean nothing to you, but back then, these were very important, very well loved and respected people. So in Massachusetts, the majority of the people were anti-federalist. The problem is, um, the Federalist people were like, how are we going to convince them, you know, to ratify this Constitution, you know? So they basically told them, hey, how about this? What if we promised to add the Bill of Rights once the Constitution is ratified? Because again, we need to get this country going and we need this system of government. What if we add the Bill of Rights later? You know, we promise we will. Now, like I said in class, um, If someone promises you something, just the average Joe, average person, not mom, dad, brother, sister, cousin, friends, no people like that, teachers, people no. We're just talking about an average person. Says, I will get you this, I'll get you that, I promise you I'll do this, I'll do that. Chances are you're not going to believe them because we basically live in a society where we don't trust people. We don't know them, so their word means nothing to us. But back then, at that time, your word was your bond. So when someone said, "Hey, I promise this, I promise that," um, you took that. Okay. Now there might be some people say, "Hey, don't trust that guy because hey, his word means nothing. He backstabbed me. He never paid me back. He borrowed this, never returned it." And the thing is, then everybody would know because word spread like crazy. Don't trust this guy. His word means nothing. You know. So that's the thing. But back then, a promise was something. It was something sacred. So when they said the Federalists said, "Hey, we promise we'll add this Bill of Rights once the Constitution is ratified," then they said, "Okay, we got your word." So in 1971, the promise led to the adoption of the first 10 amendments. The first 10 amendments is known as the Bill of Rights. Okay, hint, hint. That's going to be a question on your test. What's the first 10 amendments to the Bill of Rights called? The or the first 10 amendments of the Constitution called the Bill of Rights. Okay, and like I said in class years ago, I saw in Jeopardy. It was $100 question, like the easiest question. They asked how many amendments are in the Bill of Rights, and the person buzzed in. They said 27. No, there's not 27. There's 27 total. And then the other person buzzed in and said 10. Yes, there are 10 amendments. The first 10 are the Bill of Rights. Okay. Now, once word spread that the Federalists promised to add the Bill of Rights, then other states joined in. Maryland ratified it, South Carolina, New Hampshire, they all ratified it. But there was two states in particular that um, didn't. And the thing is, what made them significant was those two states basically had 30% of the total country's population in them, and that was New York and Virginia. So the Federalists knew they had to get them to ratify it. So each side, Virginia and New York, were going to have a convention to vote on it. So the Federalists sent people over there. Okay. So in Virginia at the convention, they sent none other than the man himself, George Washington, and future President James Madison. Now, people like Madison. He was cool. People liked him. But oh my gosh, George Washington's right there. And George Washington lived in Virginia. So he's there talking to him like, "Hey, how you doing, guys? This and that." And he says, "Okay, guys, listen. We need you to ratify this Constitution." Some of the guys are there like, "Oh, I don't know. You know. And he's like, "Look it, I promise you guys, if you ratify this Constitution, we will add a Bill of Rights." Okay. And Madison's telling him, "Yes, guys, I promise we'll add a Bill of Rights." Now, again, Washington's very well loved and respected. James Madison is respected as well there too. And they have a vote. And their promises actually did sway some people to vote yes. And it was 89 yes, 79 no, and they passed with a 52%. So that means it's a simple majority and it passed. So Virginia ratified the Constitution. Now, while all this is going on in Virginia, in New York. Um, Alexander Hamilton and John Jay. John Jay would be our first Supreme Court justice. They're trying to delay the vote. They're talking to people. They're schmoozing them. They're, you know, uh, trying to get them to talk about anything else but the vote. You know, and they're just waiting for a word to come in about what happened in Virginia. Did they ratify it? Some of that. So news finally comes that yes, um, New Hampshire and Virginia ratified the Constitution. So now they stand up. They're like, "Hey, hey, everyone, listen, 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 listen. Okay, listen. We bring news. New Hampshire and Virginia ratified the Constitution. Now here's the thing: we just need one more state. We'd like it to be New York, but we can get another state. Now, if you don't sign and ratify this Constitution, you're going to leave us no choice but to basically let you be your own country. And if that's the case, all we can say is good luck. Yeah, good luck. Because how are you going to pay off your debt? Your money's going to mean nothing. Um, your your army. You think you really can fight off the British, the French, the Native Americans? Do you think you can fight them all off? Because they're going to want to take over your land. Heck, we might. The United States might just come in and take this land too. Um, we never know. So either you join us, or you are going to be on your own, surrounded by a bunch of other countries that are going to want to take your land. So what's it going to be? So New York agrees to ratify the Constitution on July 28th, 1788. Now, the only states that didn't ratify the Constitution was Rhode Island and North Carolina. And eventually, the Confederation Congress met with them and was like, guys, just sign it. Okay. We want to make this, a universal thing. All of us signing it. Okay. Stop being jerks. Just sign it. Okay. We know you're not going to go anywhere. Okay. Just sign it. So they did eventually. So on March 4th, 1789, the first meeting of the new Congress took place. The new government set. But the thing is, people are still kind of uneasy because, yes, we have the new Constitution, we have this new form of government, but is it going to work? Because, hey, they were really excited about the Article of Confederation, and look how bad that turned out. What if the Constitution is just as bad? So that was the issue. They didn't know. But the only reason the Constitution got people confident in it is because George Washington, again, was chosen as the first president, and he's telling the people this will work. Okay. It's not going to work overnight. It's not going to make your life go from 0 to 1,000, you know, but things will get better. You're just going to need to give me time and some work, some sweat, from your brow, because we're going to need to rebuild. We're going to need to get things going in our country, and we're going to need your help as citizens, So, but this will work. Give it a chance. So, again, because people loved and admired George Washington, people were like, okay, let's do this. Let's see how it goes. All right. So, I did add the question. Okay. I know I didn't add it last grading period, but looking back, I'm like, I should have added it. Even though it's an exit ticket, still, it's points, you know. So my question to you is this: do you believe George Washington was the most obvious choice to be our leader in our country, the first leader? You know, or do you think like, we had other people. We had like John Adams, Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, John Jay. Um, I think I said Alexander Hamilton. I think I did already. But yeah, we had a bunch of people, bunch of smart people. You know, So what do you think? Was it obvious? Like, hey, no, it had to be George Washington. Or do you think, no, we could have picked somebody else? You know, somebody else may have done just as good of a job as Washington. What do you think? So the writing prompts on there to help you out. Okay. If you don't, guys, if you're writing your sentence starting off with yes or no, then you're writing the sentence wrong. You need to write using the prompt. Okay. Because if you put like, no, it's because he was good. If I'm going to read this paper like 2 weeks from now, a week from now, I'm going to forget this question. So if you're like, no, he was good, I'm going to be like, who are you talking about? You know. But if you read what I put, I believe George Washington was or wasn't the most obvious choice to be our leader to lead our country. I know what the question is because it's right there, and I'm giving it to you. I'm showing you how to start it. You just got to fill in the why you believe what you believe. If he was or wasn't the obvious choice. Okay. Don't make things harder for yourself. Okay. Use the writing prompts. Okay. Uh, Once you finish with that, you're done with this lesson. So hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed this lesson. So with that being said, guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later.